You might not think twice about a penny in your pocket, but a few select Lincoln cents from the late 20th century are quietly turning heads and racking up big numbers in the coin world. These aren't just nostalgic bits of copper. These are serious collectibles. Today, we're zeroing in on three pennies that look ordinary to most people, but experienced collectors know better. Each of these coins, released in 1980, 1987, and 1995, has a unique story, a set of identifying quirks, and in the right condition, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Let's kick things off with the 1995 Lincoln cent, a coin that sparked excitement in the hobby as soon as it hit circulation. The 1995 penny isn't rare in the usual sense. Millions were struck and released into everyday use, but a small fraction of them came with something special. In the Philadelphia Mint that year, a misalignment occurred during the die creation process, producing what we now call the 1995 double die obverse. This isn't your average doubling from wear and tear. This is true die doubling, strong, distinct, and obvious to the naked eye once you know what to look for. What you'll notice right away on a genuine 1995 double die is the doubling on the obverse, specifically in the inscriptions. Liberty and In God We Trust are the main places to check. That doubling isn't subtle. On some coins, it looks like the letters were stamped twice slightly out of sync, giving a ghost-like shadow effect. The date itself, 1995, also shows slight doubling, though it's not as pronounced. This error came from a faulty working die during the die hubbing process, and once discovered, it turned an everyday penny into a collector magnet. What makes this coin especially interesting is that it was released during a time when coin errors were gaining more attention in mainstream collecting circles. That led to many people pulling pennies out of circulation to check for the doubling. Despite the heightened awareness, most people didn't know what to look for, and even today, the vast majority of 1995 pennies are completely ordinary. But if you spot the double die, now we're talking real value. Let's get into the numbers. Circulated examples of the 1995 double die obverse can still fetch between $20 and $50, depending on wear and eye appeal. Not bad for a coin you might find in an old jar. But where this penny really shines is in mint state grades. A nice, red uncirculated MS-65 example can command $100 or more, and the top-tier gems, those graded MS-67 red, have reached auction prices close to $1,500. PCGS has recorded some of these sales, with premiums going higher if the coin has strong eye appeal and clean fields. That's an incredible return on a 1-cent piece that most people never thought twice about. And here's something that keeps collectors excited. New examples are still being found. It's not a matter of mint rarity, but condition scarcity. Coins that have remained untouched in rolls or forgotten in bank bags for decades are still showing up, giving sharp-eyed collectors a real thrill when they spot that classic doubling. It's also worth mentioning that this error only occurred in coins minted in Philadelphia, so no mint mark. If you've got a 1995 penny with a D under the date, it came from Denver and is not the double die. That helps narrow the search, but doesn't make it any less exciting when you stumble across one. Now, condition plays a huge role in value. A heavily circulated 1995 double die might only be worth $10 to $20, especially if it's lost that brilliant red luster and picked up a few too many scratches along the way. Step up to MS-63 or MS-64 red, and you're in the $50 to $75 range. But hit that sweet spot, MS-66 or better, and collectors start paying serious premiums. It's all about strike quality, luster, and absence of contact marks. What's really great about the 1995 double die is that it's become a gateway coin. For many collectors, especially those who got started in the 90s, it was the first time they realized something this small could be worth that much. It fueled interest in error varieties and pushed more people to start examining pocket change with a jeweler's loupe. It's not just a collectible, it's part of modern numismatic culture. And even today, 3 decades after it first caused a stir, the 1995 double die obverse remains one of the most recognized and sought-after modern era coins. It's not just about rarity. It's about recognition, quality, and that magical moment when a common coin becomes something extraordinary. Next up, we're heading back a few years to a penny that was never supposed to circulate in the first place, but somehow, it did. In 1987, something unusual happened in the world of U.S. coinage. A year without a business strike Lincoln cent from one of the major mints. Denver and Philadelphia produced their usual billions, but San Francisco, which had long since shifted primarily to proof coin production, released a penny that wasn't intended to circulate. And that's where our 1987 Lincoln cent comes into focus. This penny was only struck as a proof coin, meaning it was made with special dies and extra care for inclusion in the annual U.S. mint proof sets. These coins weren't supposed to be spent or handed out at the grocery store. They were sold directly to collectors, carefully sealed in plastic. Yet every now and then, a proof cent from 1987 shows up in pocket change or a coin roll, raising eyebrows and prompting one big question: how did it get there? Proof coins are struck multiple times on polished planchets using specially prepared dies, giving them a mirror-like finish and razor-sharp details. On the 1987 Lincoln cent, you'll notice deep reflectivity in the fields, frosted devices, and incredibly crisp elements, from Lincoln's hair and cheek to the tiniest lettering in E pluribus unum. The S mint mark beneath the date is your giveaway that it came from San Francisco. These aren't just any pennies. They were crafted for precision and presentation. Now, here's what makes this coin particularly valuable in the right context. As a standard proof in a complete 1987 proof set, it's relatively common. Millions were made, and if you've got one still sealed in its original holder, it's worth somewhere between $3 and $7, depending on condition. But when a proof penny like this shows up in circulation, especially with wear or light handling, it becomes what collectors call an impaired proof. These are much scarcer and far more interesting to specialists who track where and how these coins escape their intended packaging. A circulated or impaired 1987 Lincoln cent might only be worth a few dollars if it's been beat up, but if it's relatively clean and still shows signs of that original mirror finish, the price jumps. Some well-preserved examples pulled from circulation sell for $15 to $30, and those that have somehow survived in near-perfect condition, graded proof 69 deep cameo or higher, can reach well over $50. In some rare cases, a perfect proof 70 deep cameo has crossed the auction block for over $150, especially when graded by top-tier services like PCGS or NGC. Here's a twist: some 1987 proof cents exhibit tiny die varieties, like repunched mint marks or minor die scratches that create recognizable features. These micro-variations, while not widely cataloged, are of intense interest to error specialists and proof variety hunters. The presence of a minor flaw, ironically, can sometimes increase demand. But one of the most intriguing stories surrounding this coin isn't about the proof set at all. It's about the accidental release of proof coins into circulation. How did a handful of these manage to escape the mint's packaging and wind up loose in the wild? It's never been fully explained, but collectors theorize that some employees may have mishandled or even intentionally removed coins. Regardless of how it happened, it gave rise to a unique class of collectible, the proof coin with a mysterious past. It's important to understand the visual and tactile differences here. A regular business strike penny from 1987 has a matte, duller appearance and less detail. The proof, by contrast, almost shines like a mirror. Even a non-collector can tell there's something different about it. That reflectivity is your first clue. If you ever spot a penny from 1987 with an mint mark and it sparkles in a way the others don't, you might be holding an out-of-place proof. Now let's talk condition. Like many modern proofs, these coins were handled delicately, so finding high-grade examples isn't impossible. What separates the top-tier grades from the rest is the absence of hairlines, spots, or haze, those tiny imperfections that come from poor storage or rough handling. A flawless PR70 DCM example is the cream of the crop and often sits at the top of the price charts. On the other hand, even minor flaws can drop a coin to PR68 or PR67, cutting the value by half or more. But collectors aren't just chasing perfection. The real thrill comes from finding one of these coins where it doesn't belong, in a coin roll, a change jar, or even a cash register. That's where the mystery and value converge. It's not just about grade. It's about the story. And speaking of stories, let's rewind a little further to the dawn of a new decade, where one copper-plated penny set off a quiet revolution in the coin-collecting world. The year was 1980, and things were changing fast. In 1980, the Lincoln cent entered a new era, quietly, without fanfare, but for collectors, it marked a turning point. This was a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning, not just in terms of design or production, but in how precision and error detection were handled on a large scale. The 1980 penny may seem ordinary at first glance, but there's a lot more to this coin than meets the eye. It's not just about age, it's about subtle differences, overlooked variations, and the rising demand for discovery in an era when billions of coins were being minted. First off, the basics. The 1980 Lincoln cent was struck in large numbers at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. That year, the mint struck well over 7 billion pennies between all 3. So by the numbers alone, the 1980 penny shouldn't be considered rare. But as any seasoned collector knows, rarity isn't always about mintage. It's about survival, condition, and errors, especially the kinds of small mistakes that slipped through quality control during a time of mass production. One of the biggest stories tied to the 1980 penny is the so-called 1980 wide AM variety. Now, this is where things get a bit nuanced, but stick with me. It's worth it. Normally, Lincoln Memorial cents struck from 1968 through 1992 featured a close AM design on the reverse. That means the letters A and M in America were nearly touching. But for some reason, a few 1980 pennies show a wide AM reverse, where those letters are clearly separated. This variety is subtle, but once you learn to spot it, it jumps right out. And in high grade, it can bring a serious premium. But that's just one layer. Another area of interest in 1980 pennies lies in double dies, not to be confused with machine doubling. We're talking about true double die varieties that occur when a coin die is hubbed twice at slightly different angles, leaving clear, secondary impressions on certain design elements. In the case of 1980 cents, most of the known double dies affect the reverse. You'll want to look closely at 1 cent and E pluribus unum. The doubling, when present, will be crisp and clean, not flat or shelf-like. One confirmed example, the 1980 DDO-001, shows moderate doubling in Liberty and In God We Trust. Though not as dramatic as some older double dies, like the 1955 or 1972, it's unmistakable under magnification and commands strong value in uncirculated condition. Most known pieces were found in mint sets or by sharp-eyed roll hunters. Let's talk market value. A regular 1980 penny in circulated condition is only worth its face value, maybe a few cents if it's a nice red-brown example. But if you're holding one of the rare wide AM or double die varieties, the numbers change fast. An uncirculated 1980 wide AM in MS65 red condition has sold for over $400. Higher grade examples, particularly those certified by PCGS or NGC, can fetch $750 or more, especially if they have strong eye appeal and minimal marks. The double die varieties, depending on prominence and condition, can bring in $150 to $300 for MS65 or better. Now here's where condition really matters. A high-grade 1980 penny, say MS67 red, is surprisingly tough to find. Most coins from that year were bagged, shipped, and heavily circulated. Even rolls that were saved tend to show contact marks and dull surfaces. A true MS67 red can easily reach $200 or more at auction, even if it's a normal penny with no error, just because of how rare that level of preservation is for that date. Proof coins from 1980 are another interesting angle. All proof cents that year were struck in San Francisco and feature the S mint mark. These coins were not intended for circulation, of course, and they have that same frosted cameo contrast we talked about earlier with the 1987s. A flawless 1980 S proof in PR 70 deep cameo can bring in upwards of $125, though most hover in the $10 to $30 range unless certified at the top levels. And then there are the transitional planchet errors. Around this period, the mint was moving away from solid bronze to copper-plated zinc coins, a change that would be fully in place by 1982. However, it's possible, though extremely rare, that a transitional planchet could have been struck in 1980. A few examples from surrounding years have surfaced, where a coin intended to be struck on a bronze planchet was actually minted on a zinc one, or vice versa. These kinds of transitional errors are numismatic gold and can sell for thousands depending on metal composition and condition. One of the more intriguing stories about the 1980 penny comes from collectors who've hoarded original bank-wrapped rolls from that year. Some of these rolls, untouched for decades, have revealed double dies and brilliant red examples with perfect strikes. The idea that a tiny Lincoln cent could sit in a roll for 40-plus years and still come out looking like it was struck yesterday? That's what keeps collectors digging. Even within the normal coins, collectors love to hunt for full red examples, full steps on the Lincoln Memorial, and coins with strong, centered strikes. All of these attributes boost eye appeal and value. Red-brown or brown examples typically fetch less, but can still hold interest if the strike is sharp and the surfaces are clean. Ultimately, the 1980 penny reflects a transitional moment in U.S. coinage, a time when quality control was under pressure. The mint was preparing for big changes in composition, and mass production created an environment ripe for overlooked treasures. Whether you're chasing a wide AM reverse, a subtle double die, or that elusive MS67 red, this coin offers more depth than most people expect. So when you're flipping through old change jars or sealed rolls, don't skip over the 1980s. The value isn't just in what's rare, it's in knowing what to look for and appreciating how these modern coins can still surprise us. Let's wrap this up and connect the dots.